Reading from Jeremiah chapter 29, verses 10 through 14. For thus says the Lord, only when Babylon's 70 years are completed will I visit you, and I will fulfill to you my promise and bring you back to this place. For surely I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for your welfare and not for harm, to give you a future with hope. Then when you call upon me and come and pray to me, I will hear you. When you search for me, you will find me, if you seek me with all your heart. I will let you find me, says the Lord, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and all the places where I have driven you, says the Lord. And I will bring you back to the place from which I sent you into exile. May these words be to us our light and our life.
Thanks be to God.
Over the past month, you've heard sermons from a variety of people talking about the experience, gifts, and challenges of their generation. Today I'm here to talk to you about my generation, Generation Z. This comes with the usual disclaimers that you've heard before. I don't claim to speak for everyone in my generation. That would be ridiculous. And everything I'll talk about today is grounded in my own experience. If you're like me, you've probably never heard of Generation Z. That's just fine. I thought I was a millennial until about a month ago. We're the generation that comes after the millennials. The cutoff point is somewhere around the mid-90s. To put this into context, I don't remember 9/11, while I do remember the 35W bridge collapse. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of ground that I, as a Generation Zer, can cover. Owing to our current age, Generation Z has not had an opportunity to put much of a mark on the world. That's coming soon. I can only look at our upbringing to predict what we might do. Much like many others in my generation, I grew up reading dystopian books. But these books had little in common with their depressing predecessors like Brave New World or 1984. They ended with victory, a scrappy teen protagonist defeating an authoritarian government against all odds. I loved reading The Hunger Games, a book where Katniss Everdeen is selected to participate in a fight to the death on live TV for the amusement of the upper-class capital. Over the course of the series, Katniss becomes a figurehead for the uprising against the capital and the authoritarian government. In 7th grade, I went to see the first movie in theaters with a group of my friends on the day it came out, and we saw every single movie after that, all together, on the day it came out. Enjoying these books with my friends was an important part of the experience. We all wanted to take down the detested capital, preferably with a bow and arrow that none of us actually knew how to use, and we had a common experience while reading the books, shared by the other people we knew and around the world. Although critics complained that this generation was reading too many novels with cut-and-dry victories for the young upstart teen protagonists, together we relished the takedown of authoritarian regimes, reading books that often followed the same basic template. We loved to imagine ourselves as the protagonist, someone who's brave and daring enough to fight for what they believed in. In the past few months, many teens have been faced with news that seems to come straight from the pages of our books. Figures of authority make decisions that seem laced with the hate of villains in our stories. But already, teens are fighting back. A recent issue of my school's newspaper included an article with strategies on how to fight for political change. High schoolers in New York City walked out of class chanting, "We vote next." And 2 teenage girls organized the Women's March in rural Idaho, which was attended by nearly 5,000 people. We're familiar with challenging authorities from the pages of our books. We're not afraid, and we're ready to fight. In the reading from Jeremiah, it's comforting to be promised a future with hope. When this letter was written to the exiles in Babylon, they were in despair, having been far away from their homeland for a long time. Similarly, it's hard to see an end to the hateful rhetoric that has divided our country. However, God promises that there will be an end to suffering, that the exiles will be returned to their rightful place, that they will not be harmed, and that there is hope for the future. However, these lofty promises are not delivered on a silver platter. Good things are ahead, but there's a catch. To be returned to their homes, the exiles need to worship God. Not only worship God, but seek out God with all their hearts. This is a difficult, long-term commitment with God that will probably not yield instant results. However, the exiles have God's assurance that there is something hopeful in the future. Similarly, Generation Z knows that there is hope for a better world. We've grown up hearing Obama quoting Martin Luther King Jr. saying that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. We know that things will right themselves, but this will not happen unless we commit. We have to commit to resistance, to fighting for justice, even though it may be difficult, because it is the only way to move forward. About a month ago, I got together with a group of friends. All of us had spent junior high and high school going to the Hunger Games movies together. But this time, we weren't going to just watch resistance happening on screen. No, this time we were going to the Women's March here in St. Paul. Chanting and singing songs with my friends, then looking out down the hill to the sea of people made me feel powerful. Now I, and everyone in my generation, need to channel this feeling of power into resisting injustice, but also being ready to build more equitable systems in the future. For my generation, our hard work doesn't end with resistance. We will also need to create, and this may prove even more difficult. But we have an inspiration in this regard as well. It's an edgy, powerful musical that uses hip-hop and rap to tell the story of an unlikely hero, the founding father, Alexander Hamilton. The story begins with Hamilton's arrival in the United States and follows him through the victory of the colonies in the Revolutionary War. An ordinary musical would stop here, but this is no ordinary musical. After fighting for their freedom, the main characters then need to build something to create a new nation. Even in the song celebrating the victory in the Revolutionary War, one soldier asks, "Black and white soldiers wonder alike if this really means freedom." And George Washington responds, "Not yet." An enormous portion of this musical is devoted to the Constitution, to cabinet meetings, and making changes in government policy. Many characters understand that the war was just the beginning. In the last song in the first half, Hamilton says to Aaron Burr, "We won the war. What was it all for? And we studied and we fought and we killed for the notion of a nation that we now get to build." Hamilton understands that positive, constructive action needs to follow resistance. Otherwise, the resistance is useless. This musical really brings the point home. In fact, the victory at the Battle of Yorktown that wins the Revolutionary War is small and paltry to the music that accompanies the publication of the Federalist Papers. Dystopian novels have prepared us to resist, and stories like Hamilton are preparing us to fight back, following the resistance. In the reading from Jeremiah, God assures the Jews and exiles that there are good things ahead, but only if they are willing to commit to difficult, life-changing action. Our God isn't just going to make things happen for us, and we of Generation Z are rolling up our sleeves and getting to work. Thank you.